What exactly is tonic water, and why does it taste so intensely bitter? If you've ever taken a sip of a gin and tonic, felt your face tighten at that first sharp hit, and quietly questioned why anyone would choose to drink this on purpose, you're definitely not alone. That clean, fizzy bite carries more than just bubbles. It hides an unexpected blend of history, medicine, and colonial-era problem-solving. So what's actually inside tonic water? Where did it originate? And how did a once essential malaria treatment evolve into a modern cocktail staple? Let's start by clearing up a common misconception. Tonic water is not the same thing as sparkling water. At a glance, they look identical. Even the sound is familiar, the soft hiss when you twist open the cap. But one sip is all it takes to tell them apart. That sharp, lingering bitterness? That's quinine. Quinine is the defining element that sets tonic water apart from every other carbonated drink. It's a naturally occurring compound derived from the bark of the Cinchona tree, which grows in the Andean forests of South America. And that bitter taste isn't a flaw, it's the entire point. Quinine is what gives tonic water its unmistakable bitter edge. And it's also the reason tonic water exists at all. Because long before it became a flavor, quinine was something far more important: it was medicine. To really understand tonic water, we need to rewind the clock to the 17th century. Imagine European colonists pushing into tropical regions like Africa, India, and Southeast Asia. These were unfamiliar lands, and they carried a deadly threat: malaria. Spread by mosquitoes, the disease was widespread, aggressive, and often fatal. It didn't take long for the newcomers to realize they were facing a serious problem. The solution, it turned out, had been there all along. Indigenous Quechua communities in Peru had been using the bark of a local tree to treat fevers for generations. When Jesuit missionaries observed this practice, they recognized its potential and carried the bark back to Europe. Further study revealed the key ingredient inside: quinine. This compound proved remarkably effective at treating and even preventing malaria. Jump ahead to the 19th century. British forces stationed in India were routinely issued quinine as a preventive measure against the disease. But there was one major issue. Quinine worked, but it tasted absolutely terrible. Quinine did its job well, but it came with a problem. It was extremely bitter. To make the medicine easier to swallow, people began mixing quinine with sugar and carbonated water. And almost by accident, tonic water was created. What started as a practical solution quickly became a drink of its own, a malaria-fighting health tonic, which is exactly where the name tonic water comes from. As the years passed, the drink began to change. British officers stationed in India started combining their daily tonic with another familiar colonial staple, gin. The result was the now famous gin and tonic, a drink that was refreshing, socially acceptable, and conveniently medicinal. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. As medical science progressed, researchers found safer and more effective ways to prevent malaria. The amount of quinine required for treatment dropped, and eventually, it disappeared from routine medical use altogether. Tonic water, however, didn't disappear. By then, people had grown accustomed to its flavor, or at least learned to appreciate it with a splash of gin. The drink stayed, even after its original purpose faded away. Modern tonic water contains only a small amount of quinine, just enough to create that signature bitterness, but nowhere near enough to treat any illness. Today's version is far removed from its rough, bark-infused origins. It's now a soft drink made from carbonated water, sweeteners, citric acid, and added flavorings, carefully balanced to soften quinine's sharp edge. If you check the label on a bottle of tonic water today, the ingredient list is surprisingly consistent. You'll usually find carbonated water, sweeteners like cane sugar or high-fructose corn syrup, a touch of citric acid for brightness, and of course, quinine. Depending on the brand, there may also be hints of citrus or herbal extracts added to soften the bitterness and give the drink a more rounded flavor. Some artisanal producers have taken things a step further by returning to tonic water's origins, literally. Instead of synthetic quinine, they use real Cinchona bark. These versions often look different from the clear supermarket bottles. They can appear slightly cloudy or even brownish, and the taste is usually deeper, earthier, and more intense. There's also a modern evolution. Today, tonic water comes in low-calorie and diet varieties, sweetened with alternatives like stevia. And then there's the explosion of flavored tonics: cucumber, elderflower, grapefruit, lavender, creating an entire fizzy universe of options. So that raises an obvious question: is tonic water actually healthy? Given its medical roots, you might expect it to be. But the reality is less impressive. Most commercial tonic waters contain nearly as much sugar as a standard soda. That bitter edge can feel medicinal, but nutritionally speaking, tonic water is closer to a treat than a health drink. When it comes to quinine, the amount found in modern tonic water is very small. A standard glass contains roughly 20 milligrams, far below any medically effective dose. It's nowhere near enough to treat or prevent illness. In fact, the US Food and Drug Administration strictly limits how much quinine can be added to beverages, mainly because higher doses can cause side effects in some people. So while tonic water is generally safe to enjoy in moderation, it definitely doesn't qualify as a health drink. You may have heard claims that tonic water can help relieve leg cramps, thanks to the quinine. But doctors usually recommend against relying on it. At best, any benefit is likely psychological, the placebo effect doing most of the work. And now for a fun twist. Tonic water doesn't just taste unusual, it does something even stranger. It actually glows. If you shine a black light on tonic water, something unexpected happens: it lights up with a vivid blue glow. That effect comes from quinine, which naturally fluoresces when exposed to ultraviolet light. It's one of the very few substances you can safely drink that does this, which is why tonic water has become a favorite in science demonstrations, and, somewhat surprisingly, in nightclubs and rave scenes as well. But this glowing trick isn't just for fun. Back in the 19th century, the fluorescence of quinine played a role in helping chemists better understand how certain substances interact with light. Observations like these helped lay the groundwork for the scientific study of fluorescence itself. In its own quiet way, tonic water didn't just sparkle in a glass, it helped illuminate new paths in chemistry. So the next time you order a gin and tonic, or even take a sip of tonic water on its own, remember that you're not just tasting a drink. You're tasting a story. One that began deep in the forests of Peru, rooted in indigenous medicine, carried across continents by colonial empires, shaped by malaria outbreaks, and eventually sealed into a bottle in your refrigerator. Tonic water is easy to ignore. It waits quietly behind the bar, usually overshadowed by whatever it's mixed with. But like many ordinary things, it holds a surprisingly layered past, one that's been quietly bubbling beneath the surface all along. Thanks for watching. If you have an idea for a future episode, drop it in the comments, we'd love to hear it. And thank you for joining us on this journey through ordinary. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more hidden histories woven into the simplest things.